Hello, and welcome to Career Connection Chats, where you state the career and we make the connection. As always, I'm co-host Jeff Ursillo, Delaware Military Academy, class of 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you our second guest of the show, Brigadier General David Fleming. Fleming became a lieutenant colonel in 2003 and moved to the National Guard's headquarters in Wilmington. There he served 2 years each as the state's aviation safety officer and ground safety officer until 2007. He became chief of aviation branch. Fleming remained in this post for 4 years. In 2011, Fleming put 2 years as the commander of the 722nd Aviation Battalion before returning to his previous post. On July 31st, 2017, Fleming was promoted to Brigadier General, making him the first African-American general in the history of Delaware National Guard. He was officially decorated on October 20th at a ceremony in the new castle. He continues to serve in this capacity as part of the military career that spans more than 30 years and over a dozen decorations. Fleming has flown more than 2,100 hours in the UH-1H and UH-60 helicopters. In 2010, he earned a master's degree in strategic studies from the U.S. Army War College. In addition, his military career, Fleming retired in 2013 after serving 25 years as a police officer and rising to the rank of lieutenant and narcotics task force commander from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office in Mays Landing, New Jersey.
And welcome to Season 1, Military Careers and Life. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Season 1, Episode 3. With me is Brigadier General Retired Dave Fleming, Delaware Army National Guard. Sir, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, could you give us a background of who you are and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, well, I got promoted in 2017 to the rank of Brigadier General in the Delaware Army National Guard. And it's a long history, about a substantial amount of time to get to that point. And in the background phase, the Delaware Army National Delaware was created back in 1787, and in 230 years of the creation of the state of Delaware, there had never been a African American general. So I was the first one in 230 years. So that's a long process in 230 years. But my career in the military started in 1982 when I joined the military. And going through, I started out as an enlisted person, and actually in the New Jersey National Guard, and was a 19 Delta Cav Scout, and worked my way through the ranks there as up to E5, and then one day I was sitting in a 113 personnel carrier. You wouldn't know anything about that. That's an old armor vehicle, and getting bit up by bugs, and helicopter land in the middle of Fort Drum, New York. And I saw these pilots get out, and they were all nice pressed flight suits and shiny black boots back then. And I said, how long have you guys been in the field? They had been in the field just as long as I was. I was like, I'm all bit up and they're all nice and dressed up. I said, how do I get into that field? And I actually started my looking into how to get into aviation. And make a long story short, I actually started looking into getting into aviation back in 1985 when I went back to college to get my commission as a second lieutenant through the ROTC program at the University of Pennsylvania. And I got my commission in 86, went to flight school in 87, and graduated and went to the Delaware Army National Guard as a second lieutenant. Worked my way through the ranks there, and became a company commander as a major, a medical company back then, air ambulance. and then worked my way up to battalion command in 2011, and then in 2013 got a brigade command and did that for 3 years, and then in 2016 had done almost 36 years, and I was ready to retire. Honestly, as a colonel, I thought I had a full career. I'd flown almost 2,000 hours, 2,100 hours, and finished most of my time in the Black Hawk helicopter. So I had a good career, and I was ready to retire. As a matter of fact, I remember putting out that told everybody I was getting ready to leave, and then General Vavla, who was one of my mentors, said to me, "Oh, not so quick, not so quick, there, Colonel. I have an opening for a assistant adjutant general position, and I'd like for you to fill it." Well, one of the things I learned along the way was if you put yourself in a position to be prepared to assume higher positions, which is what I did. I got myself ready. There was never any openings. I did go to War College, which is a requirement to get the pin on the star. I did take that course. Didn't need it to be a colonel, but I took it because if there ever was going to be an opening, I'd be prepared. So I prepared myself for a position that I didn't know if I'd ever get. And so again, I was ready to retire, and he put me in position as a colonel. I actually took the position as the assistant adjutant general for the state of Delaware as a colonel, which is unheard of. And then they went to the process of submitting it to Congress, to the President of the United States, which took about almost 14 months. So as I'm sitting in a one-star position as a colonel, I would often get introduced as the assistant adjutant general for the state of Delaware, Colonel David Fleming, the next brigadier general for the state of Delaware. And in October of 2017, I actually was able to have an official ceremony to pin on my star and make history. So that's kind of how my career progressed to pinning on my star and getting to where I was.
That's an amazing story. I mean, when you put in perspective of the Delaware National Guard's 200-year history and you being the first African American, I believe you were first African American in Delaware Army National Guard, with Brigadier General Ernie Talbert being the first African American for Delaware Air National Guard, if I'm correct in that statement. And I think both of you has made some great history, and it's something I know myself as a young African American, as well as others that I know look up to when we are hoping for a career in the military. Now, going on to question number 2, what qualities of leadership do you hold the highest?
I always say, set the example, be the example. One of the things that it's easy to regurgitate a lot of what you read in leadership, but to actually walk the walk and talk the talk, lead by example. It's the toughest thing you do as a leader, but it's probably the most important thing you do as a leader. It's hard sometimes, to break yourself from the ranks of people that, especially at the higher ranks, as you move up the rank, you grew up with your same peers. Sometimes they don't get elevated, you do. Sometimes sometimes they don't get elevated, and you become their bosses, but they know things about your past and da. And sometimes you have to understand. You still have to lead. They don't become your friends. You have to separate yourself from that mindset. Now you're their leader, so you have to lead by example. There's no favoritism at the higher ranks. There's no treating anybody with special attention. They all get treated the same, even though you may have you may have once been friends and went to flight school together. I'm using myself for example, because you have to. One of the things, another character that I hold quality, I hold example, is to know your people and to look out for your people. The people that you're in charge of, you got to know their backgrounds, understand what it is that makes them what motivates them. Because if you can't motivate your people, you can't get them to accomplish the mission, you won't get anything done. And that will reflect on you as a leader. And then the last part would be keeping your people informed. Because I've always found out that if people understand, how many times have you said, if you don't know what's going on, it's okay to be the alligator, a two-headed alligator, where you have everything, you want to keep all the knowledge, because as a leader, you will know you will know things that your people don't know. But if they are not informed, they cannot make the proper decision making. You become that two-headed alligator on both ends, that the inside becomes very, very bloated and it will explode. You have to be able to get rid of that information, and to keeping your people informed is the best way to do that, that I found. And the last part I would say is to develop a sense of responsibility among your subordinates, making them feel that they're part of the team, having a sense of ownership in whatever mission that you're trying to do. As a leader, if you have to develop the skill of sometimes making it feel as that, even though it's your mission, sometimes you have to sit down, make it believe it's their idea. When they believe that they have ownership in what's being accomplished, they'll get it done beyond your expectations. But again, that's all part of leadership 101. I mean, you really gotta. That's a higher level skill you gotta develop. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. But making them feel as though it's their idea and getting the mission accomplished the way you want is a higher level skill that I think every leader should possess, and a good leader will possess it.
I mean, absolutely. I couldn't even say better, honestly. Is there any advice you could give to young people interested in the military like myself?
The only thing that stops us is us. A lot of times we think we can't do certain things because it's beyond what I'll use me for example. I would have never became an aviator if I looked on paper, it just did not make sense for me to become an aviator. Nobody in my family had ever flown. Nobody in my family even knew, in my entire ancestry had ever flown. So on paper, it did not make sense for me to do that. So there was every opportunity for me to say, that's not something that I should do. We are the biggest hurdles in our life. But I had a desire that I thought I could do it. So we should not let fear stop us. So I say to you, if you dream of something and you wake up one day and said, you got a taste or desire to do it, you should at least give it a try. Failure is good. Failing at something is just advances you in your life to get to the next stage of your life. I could have failed in my endeavor, but at least I tried. So I as I've told you before, the only thing stopping us from getting to the top of a hill is gravity, and gravity is always pulling at us. And I always say gravity is fear. It's always pulling and trying to hold you back. Shake it off. Sometimes you just got to take those chances. And sometimes you got to set those unrealistic expectations that just don't make sense. Why are you doing it? Because in those unrealistic expectations is where true success happens. Like I said, aim for the stars. I mean, just aim beyond what anybody would expect. And even if you fall short, even if you fall short of what you had, what you planned, you're still on higher ground than where you were. So that's what I would say about this. Just go all out in your expectation. Don't let fear stop.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't say better myself, honestly. I think a lot of things that hold people in our, especially my generation, back is a fear of failure. Because as a kid, you're always telling, oh, it's not okay to fail. You always got to be first place. You always got to shoot for the top. And then when kids grow up out of that fantasy, they realize, oh, I'm going to fail a lot, but they don't know how to cope with it and handle it. So I think what you're saying about it's okay to fail, it's okay to, because then you learn, and it's okay to fail and learn from something. I think that speaks volume.
There's a lot of people who have not failed who are doing very well in life. They have not failed, but but they're not content in where they are in life because they didn't want to take the chance of failure. All right. But if you want to get to a higher station in life, you have to challenge yourself. And the only way you challenge yourself is to do things, go to the unknown, and to take those higher risk endeavors where you could risk failure. And that's usually where the most reward and the biggest benefits come from is in the risk of failure. So yeah.
Absolutely. And then is there any advice that you could give to people in leadership positions such as myself and people desiring leadership positions?
Yeah, I would say if you're in a leadership position, my biggest pet peeve, and this has come from General Fleming, having talked to many leaders in leadership position. You got to know yourself. You got to know who you are, not who you think you are. You got to know your limitations of who you are, and always seek self-improvement. Don't stay stagnant. Like I told you, had I not gone to war college, I would have never made general. I didn't need war college. I was enjoying flying helicopters. I could have just finished my career as an aviator, but I sought you always seek self-improvement so that you can always take it to the next level, and always be technically and tactfully proficient in whatever is your skill set that you're doing. Technically and tactically proficient is important. That means be physically fit, be ready to, you should be able to take a PT test any day of the week and not just getting ready just prior to the PT test. That's technically and tactically proficient. No matter how you don't like to hear that stuff, but that's true. You should be ready to go to war any day of the week. And lastly is to make sound and timely decisions. Nobody wants a leader. I'm going to tell you this. I don't want any leader that has to come to me and wait for me to give you advice. I fire you. I don't need you in the position of my battalion commander and my brigade commander if you have to come to me for the decision. I put you there to make the decision. I have trust in your ability to make the decision. So as a leader, if you put a person in charge and say, handle it, don't micromanage them. Whether they're an E5, whether they are a team leader, trust them. If you put them in that position, trust them in their decision. You give them the guidance, give them your intent, and let them accomplish their mission. That's the difference between the U.S. Armed Forces and any other force in the world. That's why, because our Army is allowed to think. We're a thinking Army. They understand the commander's intent and they get the mission done. If they have to wait for you to do anything and they're unable to make decisions, well, you see what's happening overseas in Ukraine, don't you? One army is going all out and one army is waiting for the general to tell them what to do. And you see what happens. That's my point. Sound and timely decision-making.
I mean, outstanding information. I think some of those were principles of leadership that we were taught throughout the our ROTC course. Some of I think we have 11 principles of leadership, and know yourself, seek self-improvement is one of them. I know that for a fact. This is great information. I mean, it's a principle of leadership for a reason. So I think that's some good information. And then I always ask our guest speakers this because that's overall what our program is about mentoring and teaching the younger generation. So my next question is, who was your mentor and what was the best lesson they taught you?
Well, I've had a weird career, as you tell. I've been enlisted and I've also been an officer. So I've had many mentors over the years. I have wily old E5, E6s and E7s that decide to mentor me when I didn't want to get mentored as a young enlisted soldier. And believe me, you took their advice. Um, um, and a lot of times you don't get to pick your mentor. Sometimes they mentor you whether you want to or not. And sometimes the mentor doesn't get to choose whether or not they're going to be the mentor. And some of the people that I picked as my mentors didn't even know they were my mentors. I just watch them. I watch them, and every now and then I would approach them with a discreet question just to make sure I was on the same azimuth, make sure I wasn't going off course. But they were General Vava was one of my mentors because he just had a way about him of he knew how to talk to people. He knew how to General Vava was our tag for almost 17, 18 years. He had a way of speaking and talking to people and putting people at ease. I just thought that quality in him was something that I gravitate to. But way back when I was a young second lieutenant, Colin Powell was one of my mentors. Again, Colin Powell didn't even know he was one of my mentors, but I just watched and learned and read some of his writings. And one of the things he said in a book was, he said, quote, he wasn't always around great leaders. Mm-mm. He didn't learn from being around great leaders all the time. Sometimes he was around bad leadership, but he would learn from bad leaders as well. Well, how? How would you learn from bad leadership? He said, because he learned from them what not to do. And I thought that was a powerful, powerful message. So you can learn from anybody. You can learn great advice, but you can also learn from bad leadership too, what not to do. So, and the other part, I also learned that when I was as a general officer, I didn't even need to talk to the leaders. When I'd go around and do my business as a general officer, I could tell how you were as a leader, as a company commander, battalion commander, and brigade commander. I could tell how good you were without even talking to you, the individual commander. Didn't have to talk to you. And how did I do that? Because I could look at your people, how your people were. I could see the morale, the esprit de corps, how they carried themselves, how disciplined your troops are, and how proficient that they were in their tasks. That told me more about your leadership and your leadership style than me sitting down and you blowing smoke. All right. So I spent a lot of time with the soldiers and not with leadership. I may talk to leadership at the end, but when I did my visits and when I went to talk to the command, it was always at the end because I wanted to see how the soldiers were. And if the morale was high and esprit de corps was high and discipline was high, that told me everything I needed to know about your leadership ability. So that's a point to say to you as future leaders. How is your morale in those that you're leading? Are they disciplined? Are they proficient in their tasks? Are they rah motivated? They're not. That tells you something that you have a toxic command environment. You need to check yourself. There you go.
Yes, sir. I think that was great. I think that's great information. I know you're definitely one of my mentors. I always send you like weekly emails, or I try to send weekly emails just trying to pick your brain about things. I know General Fleming, General Davila is also another person I use on weekly emails too. He's a great guy. General Powell, I've always admired a lot of the stuff he's said and done. I think what you're saying about the environment that leaders create and how that is a true display of their leadership ability speaks a lot. Because you can have a general with people that their leaders don't get along with them. And you can have a sergeant who only has about 12 people that he's in command of that are all, like you said, rah and work really hard and show high aptitude. So I think a point I want to make is it doesn't matter how high up you are on the chain of command. You could have 2 people following you, you could have 200 people following you. It's all about what kind of a leader you are and what kind of atmosphere you create for your followers. Because I know
Absolutely.
I wouldn't follow somebody that's makes me have a low morale or makes me not want to do my job. I think that's a good point to make on that. And then the last question I wanted to ask is more like, do you have like any sentiments or anything that you want to say to our viewers?
Well, that, this field that if you decide to go down the military field, it's a wide open field. There's many opportunities for every individual. There is no cookie cutter solution in a career. I never thought when I first started out that I would end up pinning on stars. I just joined because I just wanted to take care of my family. And I ended up taking care of my family and making history in the process. So, and finding out something that I love. I always say, when you get into a field, and I say this to everyone, not just here in my law enforcement career as well, find something that you want to wake up in the morning and jump out of bed to do. Not that you wake up miserable trying to find a way to get out of work, because that, my friend, is work. You will not enjoy it and you will have a miserable career. But if it makes you pop up in the morning, makes you want to put your clothes out at night, excited about waking up in the morning to go do, that, my friend, is a career. I don't care how much it pays. But if it makes you want to jump up in the morning, throw your clothes on and run to work early, that is the career you need to find. You need to find a job in that career field. Find a MOS in that career field. And I found that. I found that jumping in a helicopter, go fly. I was in heaven. I found that in law enforcement when I was in doing SWAT, when I could I laid my stuff out the night before. I made sure everything was, and I jumped in I had everything laid out, and I found 2 loves of my life besides my wife and my kids, obviously. So it was never work. And they say, once you find a job that you love, that'll be the last day you will ever work. Once you find a job that you love, that'll be the last day you will ever work, because it really is, because it goes by so quick, and you'll miss it once you leave. And I do, but I never thought of it as work anymore, because it was something I enjoyed. That's about the best advice I can give you.
I mean, absolutely. I feel like that speaks a lot of volume, because I think people my age see adults in jobs that they don't seem to enjoy. They call it the 9-to-5 job, their job that they're like, oh, I have to go to work, or I don't want to have to go into work today. But then they also see the few that are like, I can't wait to go to work. I love work. Oh, I love the job. I can't wait. I mean, I always see it in pilots. Pilots love, a lot of pilots I know love their job, and they don't even consider it to be work. They're like, I'm doing what I love for money. I'm getting paid.
It's not work. It's
Yeah.
not work. It's not work. And I'm not advertising for aviation. I'm not doing it. And I'm not doing it. But it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. But anyway.
I mean, I can attest to that. But sir, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest speaker coming in on episode 4 is the 8th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Vince Patton, also the first African-American. So stay tuned for that. Sir, thank you a lot for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, right there. There it is.
The UH-60 Blackhawk. Love it.
That's it.
That's what you do.
Yep, that's it.
Love it.
All right. Thank you for inviting me, and it was my pleasure. And I think you're doing an awesome job. I think this is well. I wish we had something like this when I was coming up through the ranks. I think you're on the right course with this, and keep doing what you're doing. And I look forward to whatever else see how your career progresses as well. I'm sure you're on the right trajectory and the right aspects at this time. Okay.
Thank you. Again, thanks for watching Career Connection Chats. I hope you learned something great. I hope you learned something you want to teach other people. And if you want to be on our show, please email us at careerconnectionchats@gmail.com. And if you want to ask our guest speaker your own questions, please email at the email posted below. To see more, please visit our YouTube channel and share what you've learned.